Ready for a deep dive? Today on Healing Pathways, Navigating Transformation with Juanita, we're exploring the hidden parts of ourselves, like the inner child or energetic fragments of ourself from childhood. Fascinating stuff, and we got some interesting research from the therapist Juanita Puddifoot, who specialises in this area. Juanita views all of this through the lens of our world being vibrating energy. Even our own bodies are not solid, but vibrating molecules. Welcome, Juanita.
Hi, Henry. Good to be talking with you again.
Okay, so let's start with inner child. I feel like a lot of people have heard that term, but don't actually know what it means.
Great question. Inner child therapy is the idea that parts of us from childhood can get stuck and buried within our unconscious. These child parts are connected to experiences that may have been, positive or negative, and these memories are full of intense thoughts and emotions. The key is that these younger selves still influence our adult behaviours, thoughts and emotions, often without us realising it.
So that's fascinating, Juanita. So when people talk about their inner child, they're not just using a metaphor?
No, exactly. When we experience intense emotions, whether joy or pain, parts of ourself may split off to hold on to these experiences. If we don't integrate or release them, they continue to act out in our adult lives in unexpected ways. For example, some people experience a fantastic time away on holiday, and you know what that's like, the sun,
yes,
the sea,
absolutely.
the beach. And then when thinking of returning home, they feel this inner resistance. They don't want to go home. Now, this inner resistance can create a form of energetic splitting, as part of them still wishes to keep on having a wonderful time while the physical body has to return home.
Right.
These split parts carry the memory with all the charged emotions, thoughts and physical sensation and visionary aspects of the whole situation, including the memory of others who were involved. Now, if the experience is negative, we then try to forget the experience to move on with our lives. We may consciously or unconsciously suppress the memory and everything related to it, including the small part of ourselves. So it's like a snapshot of ourselves frozen in time, but repeating the experience.
Okay, so it's not just like remembering a happy childhood memory, but a part of us is actually still experiencing it.
Exactly. You've got it spot on. And just like positive experiences, difficult experiences can create energetic imprints too. For example, someone who was constantly criticized as a child and those feelings of worthlessness or even anger that they couldn't express at the time doesn't just magically disappear. It becomes, as we call, trapped or stuck energy.
Trapped energy, that's interesting. So what does it mean for energy to be trapped like that?
Well, imagine a young child experiencing intense levels of fear or pain. They may not have the coping strategies to actually process or release those emotions effectively at the time of the event. And so those emotions, which are a form of energy, get stuck, kind of stuck in time, repeating the same experience over and over again. Now, fast forward a number of years and you're not a child anymore, but an adult, and these past stuck memories have never been resolved, and so these can actually influence your life today.
So it can manifest later in life.
Exactly. And it can manifest in adulthood in lots of ways, from feeling triggered in certain situations to repeating patterns in relationships. It can even lead to physical symptoms.
Right, so these inner child parts, especially the ones from those difficult experiences, are buried within the psyche and then often stuck in a repeating time loop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Replaying the hurts and affecting our adult lives without us realising it.
Precisely. And that's where my work with deep memory process, or DMP for short, comes in.
Okay, DMP. Tell me more.
Well, DMP is a regression method, which, if I explain first of all, regression means going back. So in other words, allowing yourself to remember. DMP helps you access and interact with those parts of yourself that are unconscious. Imagine that all your experiences to date are somehow still connected to you, within your energy system somewhere. The vast majority we have forgotten as we move forward in life. But this is the interesting thing, is we can drop into our unconscious and in the process allowing and enabling memories to surface. Usually working with clients, the fragmented parts or the split parts are desperate to be heard, remembered and released. Through DMP, you can really understand why that part split off in the first place, what needs weren't met, and what it needs to heal, almost like you're having a dialogue with your inner child, your inner self.
That sounds pretty intense, Juanita. If you could actually talk to that younger version of yourself, wouldn't that be overwhelming?
Well, it can be for some people, but that's why it's important working with somebody using deep memory process. It's also liberating. Imagine being able to give that younger part of yourself the love and support it didn't get at the time.
Right, I can see that.
You know, it brings those fragmented parts back into wholeness.
I like the sound of that. So what does this process actually involve? How do you locate these parts within?
Well, DMP uses a guided approach to access these deeper levels of consciousness. It involves techniques like finding the energetically charged thoughts and phrases that people use, enabling the client to use their imagination to, visualize, breath work, and awareness of their own body sensations and where they carry emotions within their body. And we support the client to allow imagery and emotions to surface and have a clear intention to connect with those inner child parts.
So it's about allowing whatever the unconscious wants to bring to the surface of awareness.
Absolutely.
You're tapping into the energy of that experience.
That's a great way of actually describing it. And it is through the DMP process that you can begin to understand why those parts fragmented in the first place. Like, was it a lack of safety, an unmet need, or a desire for love and nurturing? And once you understand what has been wounded, you can start to explore what those parts need to heal and integrate.
So they're waiting to be seen, to be heard, to be understood.
Yeah, absolutely. We all would want that, wouldn't we, during our lives, is to be heard, to listen,
Absolutely, yes.
to be listened to. They're like little pieces of ourselves, these child parts, that got lost along the way, and we are waiting to be listened to and guided back.
I love that. It makes me think about how much we carry within us, like all these different layers and dimensions. And I wonder, is there a way for listeners to start recognizing these inner child parts in their own lives? What are some signs?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some common ones, like, do you ever find yourself reacting in ways that feel kind of out of proportion of what's actually happened?
Oh yes, that definitely happens to me.
And maybe you notice reoccurring patterns in your relationships that you can't break free from. That could be an inner child part trying to get your attention.
Makes sense. So it's not just remembering specific events, but noticing those patterns and reactions that might be coming from those deeper parts of ourselves.
You've got it. And the more we can learn to recognize these parts within ourselves, the more we can heal them and integrate them into our present selves. Another survival mechanism is actually when we dissociate. When we experience something overwhelming, our whole system automatically tries to protect us from disconnecting from what is causing upset. Now, in severe trauma, this can lead to a dissociative disorder. But even in everyday experiences, we all have moments of dissociation.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if a child is constantly criticized, a partner may dissociate to distance themselves from the pain of feeling unworthy. That part might be carrying a core belief, which is, I'm not good enough. All of this, the emotions, the thoughts, and all the physical sensations, all of this will be buried, but it's still repeating the same emotions, the same thoughts. I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And then in adulthood, the person is triggered by situations causing them to struggle with self-esteem, and they overact to mild criticism.
So, Juanita, how can someone tell if they have unhealed inner child wound affecting their lives?
Well, here's a few common signs, and this isn't the only list, and there's more that could be seen, but these are a few examples. Mm-hmm. First of all, overreacting emotionally to situations. Feeling unworthy or not good enough. I think we may all recognize this one. Self-sabotage in relationships or career. Yes. Difficulty in setting boundaries. That's one that I have experienced in the past. Feeling disconnected, like you don't fully belong. Experiencing emotional flashbacks without clear reasons. A good way to identify these is to ask, Does this reaction feel bigger than the situation calls for? If so, you might be responding from a wounded inner child.
Juanita, that makes so much sense. It's like our adult selves want to react rationally, but these younger parts hijack the moment with their old emotions.
Exactly. I'm sure listeners can relate to that as in being hijacked by our old emotions. They feel childlike in that moment. So the key is learning to recognize when this happens. Approach these parts with curiosity and compassion instead of shame, anger, or self-frustration.
Okay, once someone realizes they have inner child wounds, what can they do to start healing?
Well, the first important step is to acknowledge and connect with that younger part. Really feel, connect with that emotion. Don't sort of try and avoid it or push it away. A simple yet powerful exercise is to imagine talking with your inner child. Set up some chairs. Put a chair in front of you or put a cushion in front of you. Shut your eyes and imagine that inner child of yours is sitting across from you and ask them simple questions. What do you need? And then in your imagination, listen for the answer without judgment. Another approach is where you write a conversation between your adult self and your inner child. It's incredible what can come up, and when you give your younger self a voice, use your less dominant hand to write. So in other words, the child part can express itself through childlike writing, and then use your dominant hand to be the adult and write responses or questions.
That's really powerful, Juanita. Do people sometimes resist this work because it feels strange or uncomfortable?
Yeah, I mean, when we do therapy, when we are exploring our inner worlds, it can always feel uncomfortable. We have the tendency to go away from our emotions, to push them away, to get away from it, to stop feeling it. But in DMP, we encourage you and guide you to actually go towards and stay with these feelings. Many of us have been taught to grow up and dismiss our emotions. But healing isn't about ignoring the past. It's about understanding it so we can move forward.
Can someone incorporate inner child healing into their daily life?
Absolutely. There's various ways that anyone can connect and start to heal their inner child. We can do this during our day. So tea breaks, lunch breaks, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening, during breaks and things like that. So the things to look out for is to give yourself self-compassion. What this means is, when you have an emotion or a particular thought that keeps on repeating that you're trying to avoid initially, instead speak to yourself in a way that would comfort a child, because this is a child part trying to get your attention. Take some time to focus on play and creativity. Connect with things that brought you joy as a kid. Now, is that skipping? So you could do dancing. You could do skipping even as an adult. You could go for a walk. You could do creative play with air dry clay or painting. So there are many things that you can do that are creative. What about mindful awareness? When you feel triggered, pause and ask, who in me is reacting right now? That's a really good question. Who in me is reacting right now? Is it a child me? Do I feel young? Or do I feel my adult self? Another thing that you can do is journaling. Write letters to and from your inner child, as if you are having a conversation. You could keep a diary and write down your thoughts during the day as a child self, but also the adult self. And the last thing is, I always recommend to people go and find a professional. Find hopefully a deep memory process therapist who can guide and help you through those deeper layers of this kind of therapy work.
Do you have an example of someone who transformed their life through inner child work?
One client I worked with had a deep fear of rejection. This manifested at work because every time her boss gave constructive criticism, they felt devastated. Now, through DMP inner child work, we realised that the younger part of them was reliving the pain of being criticised by a strict parent. Once they acknowledged that part, reassured it, and gave it what it needed, which was validation and love and connection, they were able to separate the past wounds from present reality. Their confidence at work grew immensely.
That's amazing, Juanita. It really shows that by understanding our past, we can change our future.
Yeah, absolutely. Communication is key with inner child work. Trying to find out why they split, why they're ready to return or not, and this is important. Some clients become so frustrated with themselves that their life is not moving forward that in a way they start to shout at their inner child.
Sounds like it takes a lot of compassion and understanding.
Yes, that is really important to be aware of. You do need understanding and you do need compassion. The key is to approach these situations with empathy and just a willingness to listen. Oftentimes, the inner part just needs to be heard. We all like to be heard in life. We like to be visible. To be able to say how angry the adult self makes them feel, how alone the part feels and unloved. The inner part needs help to understand their situation or to release any unresolved emotions.
It's almost like a mediation process.
That's a great way to put it. It's about facilitating a dialogue, finding some common ground, then creating a win-win where both the person and the inner split part can integrate again.
This is so fascinating. It's a very different way of thinking about what is actually involved in therapy.
Yeah, it's always fascinated me.
And how our inner world of fragmentation may be mirrored in our outer world.
Exactly. And I hope this podcast will help listeners to have a greater awareness of the unconscious and what can be happening when with suppressed emotions or thoughts connected to particular experiences that they've tried to forget.
This is a kind of therapy sounds intense and emotional.
Yes, it is. And, if we bury emotions such as rage, despair, which seem overwhelming during the actual experience, in the therapy, we can release them safely and support the client to do exactly that. The inner child work, we're exploring our own energy, our own emotions and thoughts, as well as all the stuck physical sensations. So we help clients do that in a safe way.
If we're carrying all this suppressed and stuck experiences full of emotions, how do we sort it all out?
Well, that's where the journey begins. Starts with awareness, as I said before. Pay attention to your thoughts, your feelings, your dreams, your physical sensations. Notice any repeating patterns, any areas in your life where you feel stuck.
So it's like we become detectives of our own lives.
Yes, exactly. And the more you pay attention to your body, your emotions, the more you'll notice how your mind may think one thing, but your body reacts differently.
So let's say someone is listening and thinking, maybe this does resonate with me. Maybe I do have some of these inner child parts. What would you say to them?
Well, first, I would say, trust your intuition. If something feels off or you're experiencing something you can't explain, don't just ignore it.
So that nagging feeling, that could be an important clue.
Absolutely. Our unconscious can express itself via our bodies. We just have to learn to listen. And if you think you might have an inner child part that needs some attention, the next step is finding a practitioner who can help you, someone who has experience working with inner parts. Because while you can do it on your own, as we've talked about, sometimes inner child work is complex and needs an external guide to support the process.
That makes good sense. What are some things that people can do on their own?
Well, I would experiment in using approaches that support the unconscious to express itself. I mentioned a few things earlier on in this podcast, such as, awareness, meditation, focusing on breathing, focusing on body sensations, allowing the child part of you to express itself via drawing, creative processes, and, writing as if you're a child. All of these will help you connect with yourself.
Could you expand on that?
Absolutely. For example, if you remember times in your childhood where you felt unloved, abandoned, alone, felt despair, rage, injustice, and these memories and all the connected emotions are triggered in your adult life, your life will feel more like a storm of challenges rather than a calm sail across the pleasures of life. These split parts are stuck and in a way are calling the adult part to come and find them, listen, and help them be free, so that all parts of the self can move forward.
It's about finding the approach that's right for you.
Absolutely. Going at your own pace, and remember it's a journey. There's no right way to heal. What's important is working with the inner parts with compassion, curiosity, and a willingness to learn.
Great. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the unseen parts of ourselves, what's the one thing you would like listeners to take away from this?
That's a good one. I think the most important thing is recognizing that we are not our emotions or thoughts. We are more than the negative experiences that we have had. It is how we work to heal the wounds we carry that ultimately we are beautiful beings of vibrating light and energy, manifesting in a body that needs love and nurturing to thrive, that we can heal and transform our lives for better.
It's like we're expanding what it even means to be human.
Exactly. We're moving into healing pathways, navigating our journey of transformation to understand ourselves and how we can heal and love ourselves.
That's so intriguing. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to explore those hidden parts of yourself. Remember, you have the power to create a life full of peace and joy. If today's episode resonated with you, don't hesitate to reach out to Juanita. Her work is transformative and she's here to support you on your journey. Until the next deep dive, this is Healing Pathways Navigating Transformation with Juanita, signing off. Take care, and for more detailed information, visit the website energygateways.com or on YouTube search for Energy Gateways with Juanita.